In this video, what I want to do is to show you how to create a poster design using Canva, specifically how to create this particular poster that I made using Canva. And if you're new here, this will be a good time for you to subscribe, because what I do on this channel is to give you the courage and the necessary insights you need to lead your life and business in the direction that matters to you the most. If you've been here for a while, I've been on hiatus, but I'm back, and I'm back for good this time around. All right, without wasting any of your time, let's jump into today's class, shall we? The first thing you want to do is to come to Canva and create a design. What you will do is to choose custom size, and you want to enter a specific size. And now for this size, I'm going to be entering 1080 by 1530. That's the size I'm going to be using. Clicking create a design, you can see that there are a couple of templates here. I'm not going to be using any of them because a lot of times the templates are so templated that it kind of limits your creativity. But of course, if you're the type of person who works with templates, that's totally fine as well. Okay, but let's continue. Step 2 would be to get your product image. Now, in order to get your product image, I'm going to be using some images that the client has provided to me. So this is going to be my first image, and this is going to be my second image. This happens to be the same thing, so that's just black and white. Instead, I'm going to use the back. So this is the back, but it's black, so that makes it a lot more interesting. Next thing I want to do is to remove the background. Remove that background, and then perhaps crop it so that it's just the image that you have. Once I've cropped that, I'm going to select that, and then for this edit image, again, remove background. Now, the next thing I want to do here is I want to create the illusion of life that this object actually was captured. How do I do that? It's basically simple. Come to elements, search for shadows, and look for a circular shadow like this. This is a lot more interesting because this is a lot darker, but this could also work. So let's check. So it creates a little bit of shadow coming from the top. So let's use this one instead. And what you want to do is, again, want to zoom in to the point where you can see a lot more details, then bring it down underneath that image. Then let's create a shadow. So with our shadow created now, next thing you want to do, select these 3 buttons here and send to back. Now, if you have this here, what you simply do is duplicate that and repeat for the black image, send to back as well. If you notice, sending it to back kind of removes the feel of life that is here. So what you do is come to position and then send to front just once, and then try again, so that the shadow is covering the second product image. So what you will do is select your shadow, select your image, group them together, select your shadow, select your image, group them together, and put this one with the back. Now it looks like this is big and this is small, creating some form of perspective. So sometimes you may want to start with your text, sometimes you may want to start with your additional image. In this case, I'm going to start with the going to be using so that I get an image that illustrates what the text is going to be saying. So let's jump into that. This is the text that I'm given by the client. Let's paste it back here. Now you may observe that the text kind of lost its properties. Why? Because this is a fresh document. Now, this is the text that I used, Barlow condensed. Next thing you want to do is make everything uppercase. Now, let me give you a tip here. In order for your designs to look professional, it will need to be within a constrained area called margin. If you can make all your designs fit within the margin and just the background and some elements in the background are the only things covering the other spaces, that will be fantastic. I'm going to show you how. In order to get the margin, what you do is come to File and click Show Margins. Then you will see these tiny ant kind of lines. You can see these lines running around the edge of your entire text. By default in Canva, sometimes have a little bit of spacing that doesn't really look good visually. What you do is you come to spacing here. In graphic design, professional graphic design is called tracking and kerning, but Canva has simplified it for you without using complicated language. Reduce the line spacing, reduce the letter spacing, make it into 3 lines, and then make it a lot bolder. The next step is for you to get an illustration image, an image to illustrate what you're trying to say in the body of your poster. All right, so in order to do that, what you do is come to elements. Sometimes people go to photos, but I like to come to elements and I type low battery. So I type low battery, I click on photos section, and then I start looking for battery, somebody holding a phone with a low battery. This looks good. How to quickly know whether an image looks good is when you zoom out and you see it's covering a lot of space, so there will not be sufficient space for you to put your other designs. So what you do then is to start searching and looking for other designs. Okay, so this also looks good. Will this be able to stand on its own without necessarily covering other things on the page? Perhaps we might say a little bit of yes here. Remove the background. And then let's get the second text. So for this text, I'm simply going to copy everything we have here, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to try and paste. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the uppercase, so I'm going to make it lowercases, and I'm going to make this go to a straight line, then move this up here. Now let's get the website in. That is, this is the call to action. Now to get that call to action in, what I do is I type here, I type web address. If that doesn't seem to work, type web search. So you see web search kind of brings up a lot of other options. Now for this web search, let's try this sizing that we are looking for. Now I'm going to paste the text. Again, the text is inheriting the properties from what we have on the page. So let me put this here and let's see if this is going to be. So we've brought this in. Let's move this to our page. So let's bring this down here.
Purchase your track today.
Okay, so now that you have your text and your subtext in, you have your illustration in, you have your product image in, and you also have your call to action in, the next and final thing to do will be to beautify your design. This is where professionalism shines through. This is where you begin to put things in proper placements where you are going to have them finalized for your design. So let me show you how I'm going to beautify this design from this bare basic that is looking right now to something more professional, to get a background. Now, in order to get a background, part of what you should look at will be what colors are currently available on the page and what colors can I introduce to make the page a lot more interesting and harmonious. Now, the purpose of harmony when you're working on design is so that there are not too many colors splashing on your design. There are just few colors properly used in alignment with each other. Let me make that practical for you. All right. For this, what I'll do is to look for a background. In order to get a background, I'm already saying that there's black, there's white, there's green, and there's red. The brand color is black and green, so that automatically limits my options. In order to get background, what I'll do is I'll search for a gray background, and I'm going to look through the gray background and look for one that catches my attention. Let's look at this. This looks interesting. Make this bolder. Let's make it bigger, and you come to position sent back. And you look at it right now, it looks very interesting, especially with the lines on that background. So it makes it to look a lot more appealing. One other thing that I do with backgrounds like this is I reduce the transparency. So reduce the transparency to about 80 or about 60, depending on the image that you're using. So for this particular image, let's reduce the transparency to 60. Looking at it right now, it looks perfect. It looks clean. Again, let's reduce this image here. This is supposed to call attention first while leading the eye to this next. Next thing is, this give it some juice here. Can we make it pop from that background? In order to make it pop, one of the things that you can do is to introduce a rectangle behind that. And you can make your rectangle stylish. So a lot of people do when they are designing is to just fill the entire space with a rectangle like this so that the text is sitting on the rectangle. But if you want to give it a bit of style, what you can do is this line, bring it to a half. You're not filling up the entire background. They're just filling up the necessary essential part of that background. Remember, the goal is to just make it pop from that background. Let's use this color here. Let's try this color. This one is very faint, so it's not covering up the black, displaying too much in that background. Next thing I want to do is to put a little bit of panache, so to say. And in order to get that panache done, what I do a lot of times is to pour color on that page. In order to pour color is to search for, I just look for green. So sometimes it may be green neon. It could be anything, but it's just green, and the goal is to make it fill that page with a little bit of spice. So let me use this instead. You can literally use anything, but the goal of the green, the goal of that introduction of that light is to just add a little bit of effect to that background. So how do I create that effect? After adding the neon, what you do next is to click on this image, come to your adjust, and then blur that neon. You can see now that that white is kind of gone and it's no longer creating a lot of noise in that background. Increase this a little bit and then send it to your background. So instead of sending it to that distance, let's move it a little bit forward. Now, the green is getting too much, right? What you do again is come to transparency and reduce that transparency. So if it's still disturbing your eyes, for me, it's still looking too much. What I'll do is simply bring it down to something like this and then increase the transparency back. So with this, I can see my entire design. Now, if I choose fit, you can see this entire design here. The final thing to do as part of beautification is to kind of create effect around your text. In order to create the effect around your text, simply duplicate your text, click effect, click hollow, and drop the thickness to about 5, and then zoom in and begin to adjust the positioning of your text. So now that you've done it up to this point, is there another thing that you can do to still spice up your design? One thing left. Let me show you what that thing is. All right, so for this final part, what I want to do here is I want to introduce a low battery icon. Let's see, maybe something like this. So I'll rotate to 90 degrees, change this white to a black so that we can see that good. And then let's move this to the point of A. So now I'm going to remove the A of the battery. So that means the A of the battery is gone, right? You can delete this if you want to. Next is to position this battery to fit into that space nicely. And then now you can see that it's now obstructing each other. So what you do if it's obstructing each other is to send it to back one time so that you can have your icon selected directly. And with this, so from afar, without necessarily having an A, you can read it as battery without necessarily having the A there. That's part of some of the things that graphic designers do to get people to pay attention to stuff. So that's it right there. And then bring this back to your 5. I'll move your text effect to a side so that it doesn't interrupt what you are really looking at. We filled up the upper part of the design of the poster. Now let's brush up the lower part of that poster. Let's do that. In order to do that, what I'll simply do is to look for Nike logo. So this is it right here. I'm simply just going to pull that up and then enlarge the Nike logo so that you are not even able to see it at all in my design. Now let me zoom in a little bit, and then for this part of this design, I'm going to make it very transparent and then start sending it to the back of the design without necessarily seeing it as part of that design. So now I'll just make it transparent, and with that, our design is now complete. I'd like to know, how helpful was this tutorial to you? I'm interested in knowing how you are going to apply this in your own business. And if you do, please leave a comment down below. Tell me how this was helpful to you. Remember to subscribe. And of course, if you like what you've seen so far, these are some other videos that you can pick up and continue your learning journey with me. I'm Daya Samuel again, and this is Audacity to Lead, where we give you the courage and the necessary insights you need to lead your life and business in the direction that matters the most to you. I'll see you in the next video.